So here's one quote from Google's chief economist, Hal Varian, that I think illustrates some of the problems that we try and tackle in our group's research. And that's that the ability to take data and be able to understand it, to process it, extract value from it, visualize it, and communicate it, that's going to be a hugely important skill in the next decades. Because now we really do have essentially free and ubiquitous data. And basically this creates a complementary scarce resource, which is our ability to use this data effectively.
The amount and the access to different kinds of data from different places is exploding and is really new. Everything from data.gov, where you got the federal government that's actually releasing data in a fairly raw format and really isn't trying to spin it in any kind of way. They're saying these are the numbers, do with them what you will. That's really interesting. We're trying to figure out ways to build interesting things around it.
It's obvious that we have a significant data problem, and that's simply not going away. We can run numbers about it, we can throw heavy statistics at it, we can do data mining, we can do all these other things, but that doesn't cross over to the human side of it, where things get a lot more interesting.
So in media, I'd say we're always excited to see what the New York Times is up to. They are pushing the envelope. It's great to see that they are actually putting out some visualizations that are quite sophisticated, that we can see, they trace back all the way to academia.
I mean, charts are data visualization. So we've been doing data visualization, and many other people have been doing it for a long time. What we're doing now, and the way that data visualization as a discipline, that's kind of evolving and growing. It's a little bit different from what we've been doing in the past.
I was very impressed when they had the Voronoi diagram of all the little pieces of the economy.
The data by nature is hierarchical, right? And so you have food and then meat and then types of meat. It's also things you can relate to, as opposed to inflation being a abstract, weird concept. Just by the structure of the data, it was pretty clear that a tree map would be a good solution. And there's well-popular software now to make square tree maps. And it seems sort of unfriendly and unsatisfying. And so I just started looking around for people who have done different things. Michael Balser, at the time he was doing a postdoc in Germany, and that was what his research was about. So I reached out to him for some help.
Amanda, I forget who, maybe it was someone who was commenting on a blog, or a blogger who said that she was the queen of InfoViz, which is kind of hilarious and I think also true.
Amanda studied statistics in college, and she's brought both a little bit more of a focus on data to the department, and also just some sort of an amazing ability to process data.
I wasn't going to be a good academic researcher. It was just... And I started thinking well, what do I want to do? And so I just started applying to just random things to see, the thought was what am I disappointed at being rejected by, right? And one of them, I just sent off a packet to be the graphics intern at the New York Times.
I think that the recent piece that she did showing the history of four-year deficit projections was really smart. My belief is it was her original idea to do that, to create what she's called the porcupine chart. The dominant line in this figure is what the federal deficit actually was. And then at different points in time when the projections were made, she has created a line that shows what the projection was. And usually you see, I think she said in 70% of the cases, the projection was much more optimistic than where the deficit actually went. And you can see that in the chart. It's an important subject. And it's an interesting way to add this historical context.
One of the things that visualization is very helpful for in many cases is putting data in context. So I see a spike in government expenditures in the 90s and what happened, and you see, well, this is also when tax revenues spiked due to a good economy, those types of descriptive annotations, which aren't present within the spending data itself, are critical to getting an appropriate understanding of what happened.
More recently, Amanda made a piece that let readers find different unemployment rates for different kinds of people.
Probably every newspaper in America has run the unemployment rate chart showing the unemployment rate ticking up to 10%. You can actually see that the unemployment rate varies incredibly between different groups. So if you are a college-educated white woman between the ages of 25 and 44, the unemployment rate for that group is I think about 3.5%, where if you're a young black male that's never graduated from high school, the unemployment rate is almost 50%.
I mean, for me, I think the highest goal is to, sort of change what you think about the world, or to take something you already know and to make you think about it again for the first time.
Well, I would love to be able to hire, a statistician or computer-assisted reporter. We have some open positions now, and I would love for those positions to be geared towards somebody that had that skill set. Here's what the data is, and here's how we would want to shape this story based on this data.
So we've changed the focus of our team to concentrate more on database journalism. We've brought in people with data specialisms. We've brought in people who know GIS software and know how to work spreadsheets better than most designers do, in order to try and up our game in that particular level. So we started about a year ago, and we're in the process now of getting a database journalist in place.
We've done anything from the stimulus tracker, which was sort of a data-heavy project that we did in partnership with Onvia, to is gathering data about all of the contracts, all the government contracts that are being put out as a result of the stimulus money that's coming down. We mapped all of that data to locations and enabled people to sort through it and filter it by industry and that kind of thing. And the ultimate goal is to combine that kind of data with things like who voted for the stimulus and who didn't vote for it.
So in the past year, we've done a visualization on crash data, which was our journalists did a huge project in trying to get all fatalities across the UK from crashes. This data doesn't exist anywhere else, so it was quite a challenge to get hold of it. And then we've mapped it, we've charted it to see if there's any stories, any trends that come out of it, see if there's any black spots. We've got an ongoing Afghan casualties database and Iraq casualties database, which is plotting the deaths in the various war zones and the demographics of the people involved, which is it's a very emotional subject for people.
I think we're still in an early stage. I think a lot of the both artists and journalists are still very much exploring what the capabilities of data visualization are for communicating both the context and the narrative elements of a story.
We've got the similar challenges to other people. It's how do you get the story from the data? It's how do you really interrogate that data and show it to the audience in the best way? When you just put a huge amount of data up there and let people interrogate it, we've user tested that to see how our audience react to it. On the whole, they like it, but they want more of a story there. They want to see what's the important thing. They want to know why they want to look at it.
Right now, it's very much what we do is a lot of just showing you the data and letting you draw your own conclusions, which is great to some extent, but it also requires a lot of effort on the part of a user. And if a user gets frustrated, or it's just too much, and they're like, "Why am I doing this?" That's not serving the purpose that we wanted to serve.
Yeah, I do think that editing is a huge important thing, right? I really reject sort of. There's a web template of you mock up your structure and then you fill in the holes, right? But I think it's really important to look at your data first and to decide what's, to throw some of it away.
So we did this amazing, really beautiful visualization, data visualization of the Fortune 500, these yellow circles with of showing the profit and the revenue of all the companies with the tickers, and really beautiful flower. But there was no story to it.
It's interesting, and we've struggled, I think, online with the data viz with having any kind of a narrative, not even a nonlinear narrative, but any kind of a narrative at all. I think of the time use graphic, right? Where we write one sentence about what you're seeing when you click on every button, right? Those sentences they're fine, they're adequate, but there's no real they don't add to anything greater. They don't build on each other. And that part of the reason for that is because it's hard to do when you don't know. When the whole point of it is click whatever button you want.
I think that data visualization is becoming a phrase that doesn't mean as much as it should do. All it means is looking at numbers, which is what a lot of information graphics are, as far as I'm concerned. Now it seems that data visualization means visualizing a whole lot of data. And that's given rise to a trend that I think is damaging. because you can do beautiful things with computers and lots of data.
I don't know.
That look very, very nice and are almost completely incomprehensible.
So that would be true of a bad visualization. And there's a lot of bad visualizations out there, just as there's a lot of bad infographics. I think there very much is a craft in this field. And if you do it wrong, you can get really bad results, just as there's a lot of poorly written stories out there.
The whole data visualization trend worries me when it's done badly, because what's happened is there have been a few very effective ones that have appeared widely around on blogs and everything, and then everybody's sort of jumping in now and having a go. And of course this is always a danger, because the principles that we've always used for graphics have to still be applied. You can't just start spinning up random things out of the numbers. We still got to tell that story and very clearly